Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. My name is Julie if you're new here, and today we're going to talk about how to start reading more. In my opinion, reading is one of the most enriching activities that we can do, but with our busy lives it can be really hard to find the time to read as much as we'd like to. And that's why I wanted to share some of my tips for reading and creating a reading plan that works for you. The first step to creating a reading plan is to set a goal. This goal could be a certain number of books you want to read in a year, a specific book that you want to read, or like a certain number of pages. But it could also mean something entirely different, like trying a certain genre, for example. But as I've seen, most beginners start with a certain number of books that they want to read, and it's important that you don't stick your goals too high, because that will only be discouraging. But the reason why you want to set a goal is because setting a goal can give you a sense of direction and a motivation to keep reading. Because goals always have to be specific to actually work. Just saying you want to read more is not a specific goal. When setting a reading goal, make sure it's achievable and realistic for your lifestyle. If you have a busy schedule, if you have kids or uni or are working a lot, setting a goal of reading 100 books a year might not be feasible, especially if you're a beginner. Start with a smaller goal and then work your way up as you become more comfortable and you develop a routine. Of course, surpassing your goal is always an option and so much more motivating than failing at a goal, I can tell you that. Also keep in mind that this is your goal. You don't need to compare this goal with what anybody else on the internet is doing. Next, it's important to schedule time to read. If you don't have time to read, you won't be doing that. This certain time could be, for example, before bed, during your lunch break, or on the weekends. Basically, whenever you have time. Whatever time you choose though, make sure to stick with it as much as possible. Consistency is key when it comes to forming any kind of habit. Also for reading. It doesn't have to be long either. It can only be a few pages before bed. That's totally fine. It will still become a habit. It's not about trying to read as much as possible, but more to read as consistently as possible. Because if you form that habit and you like the books you're reading, you will be wanting to read more anyway. When you are scheduling this reading time, try to eliminate any kind of distractions or interruptions. Turn off your phone, find a quiet spot, and let others know that you don't want to be disturbed during this time. If you live in a flat that you are sharing with flatmates or family, try picking times of day that are less busy or read outside of your home. I also like to use noise-cancelling headphones without any music on to read. I do that on public transport, for example, as well. Some people also enjoy listening to classical music or white noise. Some even like to put on certain playlists that belong to the book. If you enjoy that, you can do that, obviously, but I find it quite distracting when I'm reading, so I just put in the headphones without any music on, but it will make my surroundings more silent and I can concentrate better. This will definitely help you focus and make you more concentrated on your reading session. Another tip is to create a comfortable reading space. This could be like a cozy corner in your home or your room, quiet park, or any other place where you can relax and focus on your book. For me, that's also public transport, for example, because I know I won't be getting up and I won't be disturbed. So cozy is really your definition of cozy and comfortable. But having like this designated reading space can help you get into this reading mindset and makes it easier to stay committed to your reading plan. Also, if you see these things around you, you will immediately think about reading, which is also why it helps putting books everywhere. And finally, tracking your progress can be a great way to stay motivated and see how far you've come. There are many different ways how you can do that actually, and you just need to find the right one for you if you want to do that. But I highly recommend it because if you set a certain goal, you need to keep track of it somehow. You could use a reading journal, to keep track of the books you read, where you might also keep your thoughts or your favorite quotes of the book. A lot of people like to have this kind of bullet journal or scrapbook. If that helps you to stay motivated, then do that. There's a lot of great inspiration on Pinterest, but if you like it a little more simple and as easy as possible, like me for example, I like to use an app to do that. I use Goodreads, but there's also Storygraph, for example, which I've heard great things about, and that can definitely help you know where you're at. And I personally also like numbers, and I like ticking things off and stuff like that, so that's really fun. And on social apps you can also get connected with friends of yours that read, and if you see that they are reading, you might also be more likely to read as well. These friends don't have to be offline friends, by the way. You can also just find people on the internet and just follow them on Goodreads or on Storygraph and get a connection there, as well as on Bookstagram and BookTalk, or on Twitter. There are also a lot of great accounts out there who talk about their reading, and that can be quite motivating as well, at least in my opinion. But don't get too distracted on social media. And you can also set reminders for your reading sessions. If you use a calendar, for example, you can mark certain times of the week for reading. When you are tracking your progress, make sure to celebrate your accomplishments on the way. Set small milestones and reward yourselves when you reach them. This will help you stay motivated and excited about reading. In conclusion, creating a reading plan requires you to set a goal, schedule time to read, create a comfortable reading space, and track your progress. By following these tips, I think you're off to a good start. Of course, there's so many more things that you can do, like taking a book everywhere you go, for example, that can help as well. But I guess if you follow these, you'll be on a good way to reach your reading goal and enjoy all of that literature has to offer. Also, what I think is very important to say is, remember that you can read everything you want to read. It doesn't have to be 1000-page books, and it doesn't have to be classical literature or literary fiction. Read the books that you enjoy. That's the only way that you will stick to reading. If you don't enjoy the books, you will stop, or you will force yourself to do it and then always get this negative connotation with it. If you're reading romance, or if you're reading graphic novels, or anything else that isn't seen as super smart, you are not dumb if you read that, and it's totally okay to enjoy it, and that means you are reading. It does count as reading, even though some people make it this elitist thing that it really isn't. Reading is for everyone, and you can read books that are popular or that are well known, but you don't have to. You can also read small authors, you can read the weird subgenre, and that's totally cool. If you enjoy that, that's amazing. Reading is your thing and you're doing it for you. You're not doing it for anybody else. It's not a performance. Nobody will judge you for the books you've read. And if they do, then they're stupid. Then they probably aren't the kind of people you want to hang out with anyway. Of course, as you get more confident as a reader and you get more comfortable with reading, you can get outside of your comfort zone and try new things. Join challenges and try genres that you don't know already. But starting to read more is a challenge in and of itself, so don't pressure yourself with anything else in the beginning. Reading should be an enjoyable activity, not a chore. It's important to remember that if you end up reading less than you would have wanted to, if you're reading a book slower than you anticipated, or if you don't finish it at all, that's totally fine and normal. We all go through phases where we read more or we read less, and don't let that discourage you. Reading is not a race, and you shouldn't ever feel guilty for taking your time or taking a break. It will certainly not be the most important thing in your life, and there's always other stuff that can come in the way, like health or family. So be kind to yourself and read at your own pace. And at this point, I still want to give a little shout out to audiobooks because they are great. You can listen to them everywhere, and they are also reading. So if you enjoy them, try it out. it can really help you get into some stories, and maybe that's your thing. I really hope these tips kind of helped you put together a plan on how to read more. And if you'd like some book recs on what to start with, feel free to subscribe to my channel. See you in my next video. Bye!